Hey guys, my name's Nisheeth Ranjan. I'm the co-founder, CTO of BrightFunnel, and I'm here to talk about machine learning powered insights for marketing spend optimization. So, quick introduction to what BrightFunnel does. We help B2B, business to business marketers understand how their marketing campaigns spend impacts revenue. So a typical customer is mid-market and enterprise, pretty large companies. They have long sales cycles. They have large deal amounts, mid to large deal amounts, and they have many marketing and sales customer touches across various marketing channels as the opportunity moves down the sales funnel. Some of these terms I'll define in a few more slides, but just at a high level, that's the business. A little more detail about us. We were started in 2013 by three co-founders, myself included. We've raised around 10 million from angels, seed funds, and VC funds. We are approximately 50 employees today. And relevant to this talk, we have a patent filed for our approach for dynamic attribution models back in 2016. So some definitions for those who aren't familiar with the marketing domain, the sales funnels, etc. A marketing campaign is essentially a marketing effort, like an email blast, a webinar, or an event like Dreamforce or a dinner where you invite prospects and customers. It's a marketing effort that generates new leads or touches existing leads. That leads to our next definition. What is a campaign touch? It's essentially a campaign's interaction with a lead or a contact. So if you have a marketing campaign for emailing about an ebook that you want people to download and you send it to 20 people, then that marketing campaign has touched those 20 people. And those people could be leads or contacts. The marketing channel is essentially the type of marketing campaign. It can be an email blast, it can be a webinar, it could be an event. The lead is a prospective customer, where it could be someone who came to your website, gave you your email address, gave you their email address, and essentially signed up, but you don't really know how likely they are to buy your product. An account is essentially the lead's employer, the company that the lead works at, for example, IBM. A contact is essentially a person who's associated with an account that can influence an opportunity. And usually contacts are created after a lead has developed a little bit and you feel that you can convert that lead to a contact and associate that lead and contact to an account and create an opportunity connected with the account. An opportunity is a potential deal that is associated with an account. For example, most opportunities have dollar values associated with them. So an opportunity for IBM could be that you want to sell your product to a particular division in IBM. So you'll create an opportunity for that and say your expected deal amount is 100K. Opportunities have a life cycle. They're opened and then they're either closed lost or closed won. If they're closed won, that means your account bought your product, and so it became a deal. It was a realized deal. The opportunity converted to a deal. If it's closed lost, it's just called a lost opportunity. So with those definitions behind us, the central problem that all marketers face is how do we generate this linkage between campaigns and revenue. So there's all of this spend happening on campaigns across channels on the left, and they are interacting with thousands of leads and contacts in the middle. And at the end of it, many months later, you can have either leads converted to opportunities, which is pipeline, an open opportunity dollar amount is pipeline, or revenue, where an opportunity closes and becomes a deal, it becomes part of revenue. So how do you close the linkage, close this gap between the marketing spend on the left and essentially revenue on the right? And how do you traverse this? Essentially, it's a graph of connections from marketing campaigns through leads and contacts to closed won opportunities for revenue or open opportunities for pipeline. That's the central question. And attribution tries to answer that. So attribution is kind of looking at pipeline, which is open opportunities, or revenue, which is closed won opportunities. How do we attribute pipeline or revenue back to marketing campaigns? So the way we do it at BrightFunnel is we create a campaign influence graph that connects all campaigns to opportunities via their lead and contact touches. And then we use an attribution model. We'll go into details about what an attribution model is, but some examples are first touch, last touch, etc. We use a model to distribute an opportunity's dollar amount to each path ending on an opportunity. And we'll go into examples in a few slides. Talking about attribution models, essentially a model is a set of rules for crediting revenue or pipeline dollars back to marketing campaigns. And there's essentially two types of models at a high level. A static attribution model is one where the rules of attribution are spelled out in advance. And a dynamic attribution model is where the rules of attribution are learned automatically and adjusted regularly. So some examples of static attribution models are, we already looked at first touch and last touch. There's a couple more here on this slide. The first touch attribution model essentially takes 100% of the revenue and credits it to the first campaign that influenced an opportunity. The last touch takes all of the revenue and credits it to the last campaign that influenced an opportunity. And the last campaign that influenced an opportunity, another way to think about it is that was the last campaign touch on the opportunity. An evenly weighted model splits revenue credit among all campaigns that influenced an opportunity. The XYX model, like mostly we have people using the 40-20-40 model, is essentially you take X percentage of revenue and credit it to the first and last campaigns, and then the middle Y percentage, you split that equally among all campaigns between the first and last. And obviously the constraint here is that X plus Y plus X have to add up to 100 because you're essentially distributing 100%. So the 40-20-40 model distributes 40% of the revenue credit to the first campaign, 40% to the last campaign, and splits the 20% into all the campaigns in the middle. So these were all static attribution models where the rules are predefined, they don't change. And here's a concrete example. So let's say October 29th, there is an opportunity of $20,000. And these were the different touches or campaign to opportunity paths for that opportunity. over time. So the first touch was this ebook was downloaded by Anne on May 3rd. That's number five. Number five is this is kind of going back in chronological order. Then Anne actually visited a conference booth at Dreamforce, say, on June 25th. Then someone else from that same company, Larry, came on the website and became a lead. They signed up on the website on July 2nd. Then we sent an email to Larry to download something or maybe to attend a webinar on August 20th. And then finally, there was a webinar and someone else from that same company, Mike, attended on September 15th. So all of these interactions between marketing campaigns like ebooks and conference booth visits and webinars on one side, and people like Mike and Larry and Anne on the other side, they're all different touches, different campaign touches. So we have 5 different campaign touches here. How are we going to take the $20,000 opportunity amount and attribute it back to these touches? Well, based on the models that we've talked about, within the first touch model, all of the $20,000 credit would go to number 5, which is the first touch, ebook downloaded by Anne. So this campaign touch would get all the credit. You'd say that the ebook generated $20,000 in revenue. Not ideal. These are single touch models, and they don't reflect reality so much. But they're a good place to start. Similarly, the last touch model would take the $20,000 credit and give it to the last touch, which was number 1, the last webinar with Mike on September 15th. The evenly weighted would take the $20,000 and divide it equally among the 5 touches. So you would get $4,000 credited to all 5 of these touches. And finally, the 40-20-40 model would take 40%, which is $8,000, and assign it to 1 and 5, which is the first and last. And then the 20% would be spread equally amongst 2, 3, and 4. So $1,333 would be assigned to 2, 3, and 4. So this is essentially how different static attribution models take dollar revenue or dollar pipeline and attribute it back to campaign touches, and via campaign touches back to campaigns. In the dynamic attribution model, we want to set up some kind of process where we can learn these rules automatically and customize it to each customer, if optimizing for one particular thing that we'll talk about. So essentially, the process for a dynamic attribution model that we filed a patent on is to take the customer's past campaign touch data and divide it into a training set and a test set. And then we start with an attribution model with a set of parameters that we choose that are assigned default values. And we run that attribution model to credit revenue back to campaigns in the training set. Step 3, we use the training set to calculate various metrics for each of our parameters that we used in the attribution model. And various metrics are essentially metrics that we can use to calculate revenue. So lead to opportunity conversion rate, opportunity to deal conversion rate, lead to opportunity velocity, opportunity to deal velocity, opportunity amount, deal amount. All of these metrics go into the formula that you can use to calculate revenue. Step 4, we calculate the actual revenue generated by the campaign touches in the test set. Remember that in the first 2 steps, we are using the training set, 2 and 3. In steps 4 and 5, we are operating on the test set. So step 4, we calculate the actual revenue in the test set. And then number 5, we use the metrics that we calculated in step 3 back here to calculate the predicted revenue generated by the campaign touches in the test set. Step 6, we calculate the test set error, which is essentially predicted revenue in step 5 minus the actual revenue in step 4, the absolute value of that. And then this is an iterative approach. In machine learning, we use something called the gradient descent algorithm. There are various flavors of this optimization approach. In the step 7, we change the attribution model parameter values and repeat steps 2 through 6. Now, in the step 2, we using default parameters, we use parameter values that we chose in step 7. And we repeat steps 2 through 6 until we get to a test set error minima. So we minimize the test set error and end up with a certain set of attribution model parameter values. And that attribution model that minimizes the test set error is the dynamic attribution model personalized to the customer. So some other aspects of this model are essentially this model best predicts revenue. That's what you're optimizing on based on the past data of a customer. The above process can be run periodically, can be rerun periodically to continually optimize the dynamic attribution model. So this is another difference where, because it's dynamic, you can, as you get more and more data from the customer, you can keep fine-tuning the parameters so that it gives you a better and better attribution model. The test set error is a key metric that can be used to measure the accuracy of the dynamic attribution model over time. And finally, just at a high level, this entire process is basically a linear regression problem in many variables, where we are minimizing a cost function. And the cost function is basically the test set error. And we are minimizing the cost function by iteratively changing the cost function's input variables, which are the attribution model parameters. This is some data on how these different static versus dynamic models have performed for us. This is data on a particular customer of BrightFunnel. So this first, this y-axis is essentially the test set error, the amount of error that was the difference between actual revenue and predicted revenue. So as we can see from the right on to the left, the error is decreasing. So we are getting better and better from right to left. So this baseline has the most error, where it just chooses the revenue to be the average revenue without using any other rules. The 40-20-40 and the evenly weighted have slightly higher error than the single touch models of first touch and last touch. And finally, the our predictive model, using the approach that I described earlier, has the least amount of error. And closing the loop on what this talk is all about, ultimately, marketers want to use attribution to calculate return on investment of campaigns. So using the dynamic attribution model, we attribute a revenue dollar value to each campaign touch. And then each campaign's return on investment is basically equal to the sum of attributed dollars across all touches of that campaign divided by the cost of that campaign. And once you have this ROI data for your campaign, you can optimize spend on new campaigns to maximize future revenue. That's essentially the talk. I'm gonna get out of and see what questions we have. So Dr. Watamwar is asking, I am new to this application of AI, but it looks like it heavily depends upon the weight you give to each marketing activity, and influence of them varies from company to company. Is that correct, or am I missing something? Yeah, I think that is correct. Among other things, um, we wanna we look at a lot of different things for each campaign touch. There's a lot of different features that we are looking at for each campaign touch, connected to the campaign, the lead, the contact, and the opportunity. And from that feature set, we are running our optimization. So it is possible that different companies will have different weights, and that is why we run our regression, our model, and we calculate our dynamic attribution model per company data set. Now, it is also possible that companies in a particular industry segment can combine their data sets uh, by mapping to some common canonical data format. And we could train our model and generate a dynamic attribution model for different industry segments. But so far, we've focused on a company level. But as we explore this further, we can also look at attribution models for entire industry segments and see how they do. So here's another question. Are you guys in the service project business, or do you have a software product tailored for marketing optimization? So the answer there is BrightFunnel is basically a SaaS product, software as a service. We have a web application that our customers log into. But at the same time, we are also heavy configuration dependent per customer. So we have a customer success team that helps each customer get onboarded with our product. So I would say that there is maybe 10 to 20% of a service component in the beginning associated with setting up a customer. And then, 80, 90% after that is all, in the product, in our web application. But I think if there's no other questions, then I think I'll sign off. Thank you so much, guys.